If you play Manhunt 2 and don't really dig for anything outside the main game, it's something you may find rare about it that has been cut out of the game. The cut main antagonist was a ventriloquist doll, Frisbee, would communicate to you during the game, persuading you to kill or perform other heinous activities. It says here in a Twitter post thanks to Swegta, Manhunt 2 was originally going to be a very weird game. James Earl Cash, mentally broken from the events of the first game, would have been led around by an evil ventriloquist doll sitting on his shoulders named Frisbee. Frisbee would tell Cash what to do, just like Starkweather in Manhunt 1 and Leo Casper in Manhunt 2. The doll will point at your victims and order you to kill them, I assume in some creepy voice. Rockstar Games used unnerving photos of Beaker from the Muppets as placeholders backgrounds in the game's main menu during the early development phase. The PSP 0.01 version of the game contains a model and texture sheet for this character. See the recreated model by modders below. As you can see in the menu screenshots, this was before the Manhunt 2 logo was even finished. Eventually the character was completely removed and the story was drastically changed to revolve around Daniel Lamb and the quote-unquote project. It remains unknown if Frisbee was purely a hallucination or if Manhunt 2 was going to have some sort of supernatural explanation for him. Some other sources like this wiki here states that Frisbee would have told Daniel Lamb what to do instead of Cash, but I assume the one with Cash might have been the accurate one since we have evidence here in this photo taken from early UI footage, which I will show you later. Apparently this character would have took inspiration from Fats in the 1978 film Magic.
You thought Peg didn't remember.
You knew who I was too?
Yeah.
Or Scarface from the Batman universe.
Former duties. Obviously, I won't pay you for the time you were gone.
Shut your tie hole! This the one you were telling me about? Tonku thinks he's in charge?
Yes, sir. That's Mr. Cobblepot.
Oswald, if you don't make him leave, I will.
No one's going anywheres. Tank, show these two doctors we're serious.
Forgive me.
Now let's talk turkey.
I assume Frisbee would have had this two-faced switch of a personality where he's like a ticking time bomb almost. His intentions aren't manipulative, but he will approach you fairly calm and gentle. That is until it's time to kill, where he then approaches you in a more aggressive and psychotic tone, urging you to kill anyone who's in your way like a lunatic, but at the same time motivating your carnage like the most loyal sports coach.
That's what I like to see. I'm proud of you, brother. Brutal, Danny, brutal. Get this guy his assassin badge right now. He's earned it. Yeah, my man, the killing machine.
Other sources like this other Manhunt wiki describe Frisbee as the lead puppet character of the kids TV show Frisbee and the Freaks, airing on the MKTV television network, a television channel that records their shows in the TV MK studio, owned by Dr. Pickman, following the same logo as the project in the published version of the game. Apparently in the early concepts for Manhunt 2, it followed the darkly comedic storyline of a serial killer being ordered by a puppet to kill people. Now what I find interesting about the early concept for Manhunt 2 is that I assume the project was always in mind regardless of Frisbee being present in the game. Since Frisbee's show was supposed to air on TV MK, I'm curious to know where that storyline would have went. A serial killer who's ordered to kill people by a ventriloquist doll of his? How so? Kill which people? Who exactly were the gangs going to be? How would the story have ended? There's so many questions that follow that storyline, and what would have went down if they followed through with that storyline. Honestly, with the information presented, I assume the post-credit ending of Manhunt 1 was supposed to be a teaser for Manhunt 2. Let me explain. The post-credit scene shows that the game's events were recorded over a kid's VHS tape and later sold as a snuff film. I assume whichever kid happened to see the events of the first game lost his mind from the footage, and Frisbee somehow fit into that storyline. I did a full video on how I thought this could go in full, titled Manhunt the Requel Video Game Pitch. If you're aware of theories and lore between the GTA and Manhunt universe, you might like this idea I had for this story. It is fan service and can be forced, but I definitely made it in that way on purpose just to add intrigue into the story I had. Links down below if you want to check out that video. Another piece of evidence of Frisbee's existence was found in the video I mentioned, where the beta version of Manhunt 2's main menu lobby was released. Like I said, the doll present in the video isn't Frisbee's model, but Beaker from the Muppets, who was a placeholder at the time. Take a look. I think this beta version of the lobby menu was more creepy compared to the menu we officially got, which I didn't find creepy at all, but dull in my opinion. What I found interesting was Cash being shown in this test footage. I know it's a test and that might not mean anything, but some sources say otherwise. I assume since Beaker was a placeholder model for Frisbee, Cash could have been the placeholder model for a beta version of the protagonist we have yet to see for Manhunt 2, if Cash wasn't ideally supposed to be the main character again. I assume the devs didn't have a model of the character they were going for before they had Danny in mind, but then they later went with Danny. It just interests me to think what would have Manhunt 2 have looked like with Cash and Frisbee in it as the main characters. What I also find interesting is in this last part circling back to Swegta's post where it states if Frisbee's presence was supposed to be a hallucination or something supernatural. I would want to go with a hallucination and prefer a hallucination, though it could have been something related to paranormal events within the story. Especially seeing that this is literally present in Manhunt 2 already to an extent.
What the hell was that?
So maybe Frisbee could have been associated with some maniac serial killer who passes on in a way connected to the project, and now his soul haunts the doll. This sounds very similar to Child's Play if I'm being honest. I feel like whether the story could have been one where the protagonist was hallucinating Frisbee because of some trauma from their past, or if Frisbee was more of a paranormal phenomenon inside and out the protagonist's head, the story had to be executed in a different way since it probably had a niche tone to it. My guess is that Manhunt 2 was going to be more focused on the violence instead of the game's story, which could be why they were originally going for a darkly comedic storyline, dumbing down the serious tone of the story for one you can take less serious and have fun with, while enhancing the insanity of the violence. Not to say the game will be comedic and comedic only, it will still have disturbing and dark aspects, but just the majority of it will have a comedic undertone. The best way to describe it is that I assumed the comedy was going to mask the violent nature of the game. Like I said, that's just my guess. So what do you guys think? The final thing I find very interesting about Frisbee is that I just discovered not too long ago thanks to a user on Reddit I can't find. You guys may not see it too much at first, but doesn't Leo literally look like a human manifestation of Frisbee? The similar bold eyebrows, the hair on top, just more low cut for Leo's hair and on the side, the cold deadpan look on the face. I can't be bugging out over this by my lonesome now, right? It almost looks like the devs wanted to do this just to instill a husk of Frisbee, the original antagonist for Manhunt 2.